It's me, Dax, also known as Nicole DeBoer. You are listening to Random Trek.
Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to Random Trek. I am your fearless captain, Christopher Ingle, joined as always by my trusty and faithful first officer, Brennan, the Mystical Mar. Brennan, something's shooting at us.
Exterminate. Oh, wrong universe. Sorry.
I still say that would make an epic crossover, don't you? All we can do is read it in comics. Today, we are in Those Old Scientists. I'm sorry, that was last week. We are in the original series, Season 2, Episode 3, The Changeling. This is the one that introduced Nomad. Nomad. Brennan, how did you feel about this episode?
Well, I've seen it a few times. I know that before I ever saw it, I knew that the sense of that Star Trek the Motion Picture may have borrowed from this.
Mm-hmm.
I can definitely see the connection here.
Mm-hmm.
Though thankfully, Motion Picture ended on a better note, I would say, a more hopeful note
Mm-hmm.
than this. But yeah, it's interesting to. It's always fun to see Kirk out argue a computer.
Yeah, this is something I would have expected Spock to do, but Kirk does this. This was my first viewing of this. This is one, again, I knew of, but had never actually sat down to watch. Shocker, guys, TOS is my weak point, okay? I'm still missed a lot of episodes. So it's nice to get back to ones you haven't seen before. But I really enjoyed this. This was interesting. It was tense. It was fun. It was, how are we going to get out of this? How are we, I love when Star Trek is like this and you're like, what are they going to do to solve this? And this was one of those for me. But let's get into the details of the episode and then we'll talk about it. So we open up with the Enterprise investigating a distress call from the Malurian star system. Spock reports that there are no life readings. There's supposed to be 4 billion people living there. And yet, despite recent communications, nobody's there. All of a sudden, the ship's shields activate, and a meter-long object starts attacking with a very powerful energy bolt that is as powerful as 90 photon torpedoes. Kirk orders to return fire, but his weapons just get absorbed by it. So there are more attacks that keep coming at it, and it is depleting the shields rapidly, ready to destroy the Enterprise. Kirk hails the object, and there are some back and forth attempts to happen, and the object requests an in-person communication with the captain and agrees to be beamed aboard the ship. When they beam it aboard, the object, it's a meter-tall, hovering cylinder. It's a machine, and it identifies itself as Nomad and refers to Kirk as the creator. Now, Spock says that Nomad was a space probe that was launched from Earth during the early 21st century. And its job was to explore the galaxy, seek out new life, very similar to them. But it was reported destroyed, and Spock says that report might have been wrong. Nomad mistakes Kirk for its creator, Dr. Jackson Roy Kirk, who was the scientist who created and programmed the original probe. Nomad's mission at that point is to seek out and destroy the biological infestation that it feels is imperfect, including the entire population of the Malurian star system, which it did. Nomad says that it attempted to destroy Enterprise, but its attempt was not necessary since the creator was on board. So they leave Nomad in the care of a crew member, but it escapes and investigates a sound that it hears from Lieutenant Uhura. She's singing. It hears this over the intercom. It arrives on the bridge and asks some questions. It asks Uhura to think about music while it's probing her mind, trying to understand it, but it erases her memory. A lot of memory. Scotty tries to intervene, but dun dun dun, Nomad kills him. Scotty died. Whoa. That was a big shocker. Was not expecting that.
And they've done that with pretty much every character since then.
Every character has died at least once. Yes.
Yes, apparently.
But Nomad says that he was trying to defend itself. Learning that Kirk can't repair Scott. Scott's dead. Nomad says, I can fix him. I can repair him. Is he essential? Yeah, I can fix him. So they take him to sickbay, and Nomad does manage to heal Scotty, but he can't fix Uhura's memory. Nomad is immediately taken to the brig for safety reasons. Uhura's brain wasn't damaged, just her memory is wiped. So the medical staff tries to re-educate her. And according to Scotty, spoiler alert, by the end of the episode, they do manage to get her almost back to normal. Let me tell you, I'd like to know their education techniques. Very much so, please. As a teacher, I want to know this. But to uncover a lot more information, I don't know how this happened. Spock performs a mind meld with a machine, something we see him do later on in Star Trek 1. And we discover that Nomad at one point collided with a meteor and was very damaged. It was kind of drifting through space, coming in contact with a powerful alien probe called Tanru. And it was designed to obtain and sterilize soil samples from other planets. So Nomad partially integrates with Tanru and everything merges. So it now interprets everything as sterilizing imperfections. So the merging of this causes these error in its processing, but now he has Tanru's many abilities and powers and technology, and it's enough to destroy the entire solar system. Kirk compares Nomad's reincarnation to the legend of the Changeling, in which a human child is switched with a fairy child, but the fairy child assumes the identity of the former, not realizing that it is indeed a fairy and not a human child. So Nomad escapes from itself and kills 2 guards in the process, red shirts. The probe makes its way to engineering, where it starts to make adjustments to the engines and accelerating the ship beyond normal warp speed. When Kirk arrives, Nomad tells him that the engine efficiency has been boosted over 50%. Kirk orders him to fix it and to change it back. The Enterprise can't handle these strains. Nomad complies, but you could see there's some resistance that's starting to happen here. They're wore out. Nomad's welcome is now wore out. And Nomad does not like biological units. So Kirk points out that its creator is biological, thus creating a little bit of a logical flaw here. You're trying to destroy biological imperfection, but your creator is biological. Nomad says that he has to reevaluate. Kirk orders the probe back to the brig, and it departs with security. Spock says to Kirk that telling Nomad that he is the creator and he is imperfect might have been a mistake. Spock says that Nomad has threatened to return to its launch point, Earth, and now all of Earth is at risk of sterilization if he should succeed. So on the way to the brig, Nomad kills 2 more security guards and heads instead to sickbay. So he examines Kirk's medical files and verifies the imperfections that he is biological. Nomad's reevaluation then becomes complete, and he proceeds to engineering, seeing that he this time stuns the crew members. I don't know why he doesn't just kill them. He's already done that. And he shuts down life support, rendering Enterprise only habitable for a short time longer. Kirk arrives and confronts Nomad, asks him about his mission. Nomad says it's directive, sterilize imperfections with no exceptions. But Kirk points out that Nomad itself is imperfect, since it has mistaken Kirk for its true creator. He then says that Nomad has committed 2 other errors by not discovering its own mistake.
I am Nomad.
And by not sterilizing itself, since it is imperfect, he catches it in a logical loop. Nomad starts to analyze the information, and it causes stress to its systems. Kirk and Spock take the advantage to carry Nomad to the transport room, where basically this thing's going to implode on itself in this logical error. The final command from Kirk is to exercise your prime function, which is take out anything imperfect. Therefore, it has to take it out himself. They beam it into space, and seconds later, it explodes. But the episode ends on something funny where Kirk says he's proud that his son Nomad helping Spock might have made a good doctor, or healing Mr. Scott would have made a great doctor. Sure, why not? But that is the episode. Brendan, what did you like about this one?
Well, this is a tricky one because it's very easy to compare it to the motion picture.
Mm-hmm.
When I was on that, I do like the idea of a probe from Earth being augmented in some way by an alien intelligence, a probe of an alien origin, Tenru or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
That makes you wonder, the Voyager probes, what they might encounter someday.
Right.
I do think it's interesting that. Well, I always do enjoy Kirk talking a computer into self-destructing, even though he does it many times. um, I think that as far as the episode goes, it's not the most memorable episode. Neither is it a terrible episode. Kind of in the middle, in the sense that there isn't really much I could necessarily say about it. It is what it is. I like the idea of the logic of a computer not being able to understand that there's more to the universe than computer logic.
Mm-hmm.
That humans in particular are more complex than Nomad might think with his very binary thinking,
Mm-hmm.
which is an interesting idea. The idea of would a computer ever really be able to fully understand
Right.
that human nature is not the same as how a computer might see the universe. And I like that idea.
Yeah.
I like the designer Nomad too. I do like his design.
It's so 60s retro, and yet it's very simplistic.
Yeah, and I like the simplicity of it.
Mm-hmm. And the idea too that it doesn't take something big and foreboding to nearly destroy the Enterprise.
Yeah, good point.
And you're right. The similarities between this and the motion picture are striking.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. I mean, Spock mind melding with it nearly destroying everybody. Well, the thing is though that V'ger didn't destroy them, digitized and absorbed the data. It exists.
Good point.
It does exist. This was about eliminating everything. But to me, this reminded me more of the episode Dreadnought in Star Trek Voyager, where you had this I think it was an antimatter missile or something to that extent. That was originally programmed by the Cardassians. It was programmed by the Cardassians as a destructive weapon to take out the Maquis. Well, the Maquis commandeered it, and specifically B'Elanna Torres turned it to take out Maquis Cardassian targets. But I'm sure through the events that are very similar, it was accidentally sent to the Delta Quadrant, but it got damaged in the process. It knew what its main function was, but it was misidentifying everything. And so when Voyager comes across it, B'Elanna tries to disable it so it causes no harm. But of course, it's too smart for that, figures things out, and tries to override it anyway. And B'Elanna, through a combination of trying to outlogic this thing, but also having to change things up, I see a lot of similarities to this. Very much so. Of course, B'Elanna had to go more I'm gonna send a phaser to the internal core of this thing. But she had to outthink this thing. Absolutely. Same way Kirk had to outthink this. And I am also thinking of Kirk in the Ultimate Computer.
Oh, yes.
Taking out the M5? M5
The
Multitronic?
M5, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I think this episode influences more things down the line, but the idea in science fiction of a human or a biological individual having to outsmart a machine is all throughout. I think this also took a little bit of inspiration from the Daleks of Doctor Who.
No, absolutely.
This would have been 4 years later. Daleks were in the first season of Doctor Who, if I remember correctly.
Exterminate.
Exactly. And you can't tell me that Nomad in some ways doesn't remind you of that. 100%.
Particularly the voice.
Yeah. Yes. But we see crazy AIs do crazy things later. Again, Voyager. I can't remember the name of the episode, but when B'Elanna is captured by an artificial creation and told to create a brand new android, basically, like Data. A little bit there too. We have a job to do. We have to do it. Evil artificial intelligences have existed in Star Trek history. Lower Decks makes fun of this. Thank you, Jeffrey Combs. Thank you so much. I can't remember the name of the creature, but he's made multiple appearances in Lower Decks as this evil AI.
Yeah.
And we find out that evil AIs exist in Star Trek heavily. And in the Daystrom Institute, there is a prison for evil AI, including Peanut Hamper. I think Peanut Hamper was there at one point. So,
yes.
This goes on and on and on and on. This is the first time this was done. But this is an idea that continues all the time. Man versus machine. So I liked this. For a first outing of this, this was tense. How is Kirk going to get out of this? How is he going to deal with this? What is it going to take? Is this going to take... It took out 4 crew members. 4 innocent crew members, just on a whim. It killed Scotty, and nearly did so to Uhura. This was dangerous. And I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was too long, drawn out. I thought the tension was great. The music was enlightening. Really paired with it very well. This was a great Star Trek episode. But I could be a little different on that. I don't know. I just found I enjoyed it. And it's season 2. I don't have an issue saying that season 2 overall is really good. They really hit their stride during season 2.
Agree.
Was there anything about it that you just weren't a fan of?
Oh boy. No. I don't think it's so spectacular. I don't think it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
Anything I didn't like? No, not really. I mean, Kirk out logicking a computer. I mean, that's.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the first time it happened, so.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining too much. Uhura relearned everything off the cliff.
Well, there's a theory to that. I agree with you. And I was thinking the same
yeah.
thing. The theory is that it maybe didn't erase it, but merely the memories were there, but the pathways, the ability to access that information might have been degraded. But the human brain is amazing, and we find that even with truly amnesic patients, there are ways to re-jog those memories. You don't completely lose them, just your ability to access it. So I want to think in my head canon that's what happened here. Because he said think of music, and as she's doing that, that's he's scanning it. I would say he's seeing the pathways, not the information that was stored. And that's why they were damaged. But that's a little headcanon for me. But I think it works. Oh, neat little thing. There's a still photo of Dr. Jackson Roykirk when they discover that. That is the episode's director, Mark Daniels. Neat. It's a neat little Easter egg that I absolutely love. This is a guy who historically directed a lot of classic TV, also a lot of Desilu productions. I Love Lucy, Gunsmoke, Star Trek, Mission Impossible. He was popular. for their company.
You got it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, for me, I there was nothing I really didn't like about it. I find him threatening. I felt that Nomad, they clearly showed Nomad was dangerous and could go off at any moment, and you had to think carefully and slowly. And if it wasn't for that one mistake and the fact that Kirk happened to be there, they would have been destroyed. Any other ship would have been destroyed unless the person who talked to them was Kirk. So kind of convenient it's the Enterprise, but I liked it.
It's all good.
All good. All right. Yeah. So we move on. We plan for next week. We move on from this generation to the next generation. See what I did there? I love it.
Oh boy.
Yes. Next week we will be reviewing an episode of Next Generation. So let's hit the randomizer.
Oh boy.
All right. Here we go. Next Generation, Season 7, Episode 20, Journey's End.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
This is the episode, one of the episode that finally drew it for me. I hate Admiral Nechev, and she is the worst admiral in Starfleet history. That is my opinion. I will stand by it. Do not like this woman at all. And when we get to see brooding and cranky Wesley Crusher, yay!
Well, and we get to see why Nechev might be the one of the worst.
Yeah, I do have a question for you. How many people does it take Admiral before it becomes wrong?
Ooh, you got it.
Yes. So we will talk about Journey's End next week, and then the week after that, we have our movie night. The plan is that we will be reviewing Spaceballs with Video Drew and Nerd Chronic together. But there, if that gets delayed, we will still bring movie night. We're just working on a backup plan should that have to be delayed, so you don't miss movie night. We look forward to movie night. We really do, just like on the show. But Brennan, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Brennan Mystical, Brennan Blue at Threads and Instagram, on YouTube at Page Turners They Were Not, where you can also find this podcast, and Apple and Spotify podcasts.
And you can find me on Twitch and Twitter at CIngle1984. But as always, we end every episode, Kapla, and live long and prosper.
Peace and long life.